let's talk about these quarterback rankings. So there was an article written, so much like Sports Illustrated has like a smaller company that kind of feeds into it where their writers are associated through. USA Today has a similar one. I think it's called like Daily Wire or something like that. Anyways, Jared Bailey, who I know I've seen a lot on Twitter, he's not afraid to have a take that is very different. He wrote an article talking about the quarterback rankings, and he had Brock Purdy at 16. And then Doug Gottlieb came out and said that he believes there's 15 quarterbacks that if they were in this same offense, the offense would operate at just as high of a level, if not higher than it does with Brock Purdy. So it's almost like two people on completely different spectrums came out and have Purdy ranked 16, essentially. So before we get into actual rankings, just on the surface, too high, too low? Like, what are your thoughts when you hear Brock Purdy 16th best quarterback in the NFL?
Well, I looked at the article, right? And
I'll give you the list. Should I give the list real quick?
Yeah, that'd be dope. I mean, I can give it to you right now if you want to, but like I looked at the article. Okay, go ahead.
It's he had Mahomes 1, Allen 2, smart guy. He's good so far, right? Burrow 3, Herbert 4, Stroud 5, Stafford 6, Lamar 7. That's where I think he's getting squirrely. Love 8, Rodgers 9, Lawrence 10, Dak
Trevor
11.
Lawrence?
Yeah, 10. Dak 11, Cousins 12, Goff 13, Hurts 14, Kyler 15, and Purdy 16.
Jalen Hurts at 14. Are you high?
Yeah. So he's. By the way, there's a lot of. It's hard, man. It really is hard to crank out a list because it changes so often. Like there's so many factors that go into this. You could really make a case for 6 or 7 guys to be the 10th guy. You know what I mean? It's
all right.
Anyways.
I just all right. Look, so Patty won, even with Aaron Rodgers. Let's say Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers, right? So we'll say that because the truth of the matter is like if Aaron Rodgers,
don't know.
Right? We don't know, right? His ass could be at scraping the bottom of the barrel. So I would go Patrick Mahomes. If Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers, okay?
Yeah.
I go Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
All right. Then I'd go just Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. Then that's close. Okay. Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. Then I'd go Matt Stafford. Then I'd go Lamar. Okay. And that's either or, right? Take what you will with that. All right. Then after Matt Stafford, Lamar, I'd go CJ Stroud. All right. After CJ Stroud, then I would go Brock Purdy. All right. Then after Brock Purdy, I'd go Kirk Cousins.
So hold on. So you have, is that 9? Mahomes, Allen, Burrow,
Purdy at like 9.
Herbert, Stroud, Stafford, Lamar, Rodgers, Purdy at 9. Okay. All right.
Purdy at 9. All right.
Okay.
Then after Purdy, I'd go Kirk Cousins. I'd go Dak Prescott. Then I'd go Trevor Lawrence. They're giving Trevor Lawrence way too much love for no reason. All right. Then after Trevor Lawrence, I'd go Jordan Love because Jordan Love is better than Trevor Lawrence. Just eye test, but he hasn't done it enough. One more season, Jordan Love is clearly better than Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion. But then after Trevor Lawrence, I go Jordan Love. Then I'd go Goff. Then I'd go Murray. Then I'd go Hurts. But throughout this entire time, I'm not putting Jalen Hurts in front of any of these guys because I don't think Jalen Hurts is a real quarterback. So, and honestly, even if I would go Hurts, I think that Hurts would be like fighting between like Tua, Kyler Murray, and Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, Hertz is an interesting one to me. I remember last year, speaking of Larry, I was doing a show with Larry, and we were talking about the Eagles, and I said something about I said something like, I'm not sure on Hertz yet. And he's like, you're not sure on Hertz? He's like, after that unbelievable year, and I said, no, it's just it hasn't been enough. Like my rule is normally 3 years, but there's always something, like there's always the exception to that rule, right? And when a guy wasn't good for 2 years and then was really, really like over the top good for one, it's like, can I see it again before I fully
Yeah.
make a decision on what a guy is? And then we saw it and it wasn't good again. It's like, okay, so 3 out of 4 years, it wasn't good.
Mhm.
Like I have to go lean towards that's the rule and not the exception. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And he accounts for a lot of touchdowns because of the tush push and all those other things. So here's my list. I have Mahomes 1, Allen 2, Lamar 3, Burrow 4, Herbert 5, Stafford 6, Stroud 7. I have Rodgers and Cousins in here at 8 and 9, assuming they can get back to most of their form. They're both coming off of major Achilles injuries. Okay. So these guys could easily fall out, right? And I could see it.
Okay.
Now, Rodgers, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so the reason why I push back against Kirk is because he hasn't done shit. So we're not talking about like the reason why I'm adding these guys like CJ Stroud, for instance, is in the conversation for me is because of what he's doing in the position of the career that he's in right now, right? He's a rookie doing this stuff, right? So that's why CJ Stroud is in the category that he's in. But what success has Kirk Cousins had with his attributes? Not much. That's why I don't have Kirk Cousins better than a lot of these guys because, in my opinion, Kirk Cousins is just redundancy. In my opinion, but I could be wrong.
Listen, when you say success, you're clearly just talking about like what he has or has not done in the playoffs, right? Which is fair, I guess.
It's
but
quarterback. This is the NFL, bro. You know, this is kind of like
I get it. Listen,
that shit matters.
It does, but also so does context. Context does too. Like when they lost to the the Giants 2 years ago, dude, Kurt had himself a day. The defense couldn't stop. The Giants put up like 30, almost 40 points or whatever it was. The Giants offense put up almost 40. That's how bad that defense was. Kirk played a really, really good game. Really, really good game. And they just couldn't overcome it. They couldn't win. I think they also had like 4 fumbles in that game. I don't know. It just weird stuff. The point is that Kirk, though, has been doing it for a very long time in this league, put up very good numbers on multiple teams. If he does it again with the Falcons, it's like, okay, how many coaches and how many teams do you have to see this guy throw for 4,500 yards and 30 touchdowns on before you just say, Kirk's pretty fucking good? Like at some point, like you just have to acquiesce and say he's good. People talk about the primetime games and all these other things. Well, you know, some people love the EPA stat. I know there's a big section that watches a certain somebody, and that's all he talks about. So let's talk about the EPA stat. The EPA stat has him as a top 10 clutch player over the last 5 seasons. So that's the facts. In the final 5 minutes of a game, 1 score or less, he's produced at a high level according to EPA. Now, I'm not the biggest EPA guy. I think a lot of that is a team thing, but some people get into the EPA. So I'll throw that out there for you. But the other thing is this. I watch Kirk Cousins without his best receiver, clearly less talent on the field than what Brock Purdy had. And I watched him and Brock Purdy play on the same field together. And I didn't come away from that game saying Brock Purdy at this moment is better than Kirk Cousins. Now, a week or two later, Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles. That obviously can change things. I don't know what it's going to look like this year for Kirk Cousins, but if Kirk Cousins, I'm just going to assume he's fully healthy until I see that he's not. When I watch those 2 guys on the field, Kirk Cousins was clearly the better quarterback.